Part 1, First Contact Goes Hilariously Wrong. The moment everything changed. Commander Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the UNS Starlight, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the main view screen. 3 months of preparation had led to this moment, humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization. The crew had practiced protocols, rehearsed speeches, and prepared for every possible scenario. Well, almost every scenario. "Sir, massive energy signatures detected," called out Lieutenant Jade Riley from her station. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace directly ahead. Webb straightened his uniform one final time. "This is it, people. Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Professional, respectful, and..." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the most dramatically evil-looking fleet anyone had ever seen. Black ships shaped like angular daggers floated in perfect formation, their hulls decorated with red stripes and skull motifs. Ominous purple lighting emanated from their engines, and each vessel bore names that seemed ripped from a teenager's dark fantasy novel. Riley's hand flew to her mouth, but a small giggle escaped anyway. The Supreme Overlord appears. The communication channel crackled open with unnecessary static effects. Dramatic music began playing in the background, actual dramatic music, as smoke billowed across the alien bridge. Through the theatrical haze emerged a figure that made the entire human crew freeze in disbelief. Admiral Corvin Darkbane stepped forward, his massive form draped in flowing black robes that seemed to move in an invisible wind. His helmet was an elaborate construction of spikes and red glowing sensors, complete with a breathing apparatus that made every breath sound like a mechanical wheeze. Behind him, the alien bridge was lit entirely in red and black, with unnecessary flame effects shooting from various console decorations. "Tremble before the might of the Galactic Empire." Darkbane's voice boomed through speakers with so much reverb it echoed for several seconds. "I am Admiral Corvin Darkbane, Herald of Infinite Shadows, bringer of stellar despair." The silence on the human bridge lasted exactly 2.3 seconds. When professionalism meets comedy. Lieutenant Riley was the first to break. A snort escaped her lips, followed immediately by a hand clapped over her mouth. Her shoulders began shaking as she fought desperately to maintain composure. Webb bit his tongue hard, tasting blood as he struggled not to smile. Maintain professional standards, he managed through gritted teeth. But then Darkbane continued his introduction. "You will surrender immediately to the Armada of Eternal Torment. Our fleet consists of the Doomhammer of Despair, the Void Ripper Supreme, and my flagship, the Megalith of Infinite Suffering and Really Bad Things." That broke everyone. The entire bridge crew erupted into uncontrollable laughter. 25 trained military personnel doubled over, tears streaming down their faces as they struggled to breathe between fits of giggles. The alien confusion begins. On the alien flagship, Darkbane's helmet tilted in what could only be described as confusion. Are they having some sort of medical emergency?" he asked his second-in-command through their private channel. "Unknown, Admiral," came the reply. "Perhaps their primitive minds cannot process our magnificent terror?" Webb finally managed to activate the mute button, just in time to prevent the aliens from hearing his uncontrollable snorting. "Oh God," he gasped between laughs, he actually called it the Megalith of Infinite Suffering and Really Bad Things. "Sir," Riley wheezed, pointing at her scanner readouts, "their other ships are named the Bloodfang Destroyer, the Skullcrusher Battalion, and... She dissolved into giggles again. "The Murder-Death Ship of Maximum Destruction." Attempting diplomacy. Taking deep breaths, Webb tried to regain his composure. He was a commander in the United Nations Space Force. He could handle this. He unmuted the channel and attempted to speak. "Greetings, Admiral Darkbane," he began professionally. "I am Commander Marcus Webb of Earth. We welcome you to our solar sys." He caught sight of Darkbane's helmet again, which had somehow gotten even more dramatically evil-looking, complete with tiny skull decorations that served no apparent purpose. We welcome you to our. He muted the channel again as another wave of laughter overtook him. Commander, called out Ensign Torres from the science station, I'm reading their ship specifications. Sir, their main weapon is called the Annihilator Cannon of Cosmic Doom and Sadness. Stop. Webb begged, clutching his sides. Please, I'm trying to be diplomatic here. On the alien ship, Dark Bane was growing increasingly perplexed. They keep activating and deactivating their communication system. Are they perhaps mocking us? The very suggestion sent a chill through the Imperial Bridge crew. No one had ever mocked the Galactic Empire before. Most species either surrendered immediately or died trying to resist. The misunderstanding deepens. Webb finally managed to compose himself enough for a proper response. He straightened his uniform, cleared his throat, and unmuted the channel with his most serious expression. Admiral Darkbane, he said with forced gravity, we are honored by your visit to our humble solar system. Earth extends its greetings to the Galactic Empire. Darkbane's helmet somehow managed to convey satisfaction despite having no visible facial features. At last, you show proper respect for our infinite power. You will now surrender your planet and all its resources to the Empire. Well, Webb replied diplomatically, perhaps we could discuss terms over some coffee? We humans believe that all conflicts can be resolved through proper negotiation and caffeine. The alien admiral paused. CAF, fiend? Is this some sort of primitive weapon? That innocent question sent the human crew into another laughing fit, and Webb knew this first contact was going to be far more interesting than anyone had planned. Part 2, Cultural Misunderstanding Escalates. The Caffeine Weapon Theory. Dr. Benjamin Torres, the ship's xenobiologist, wiped tears from his eyes as he tried to explain human customs to the increasingly bewildered alien admiral. No, Admiral Darkbane, he managed between chuckles, caffeine isn't a weapon. It's a stimulant we drink for energy. The massive alien's helmet tilted dramatically. You consume battle stimulants for pleasure? Captain Luna Pierce, who had just arrived on the bridge, took one look at the theatrical alien display and immediately understood why her crew was in hysterics. Darkbane's armor had apparently gotten even more elaborate since the conversation began, now featuring tiny chains that served no purpose except to jingle ominously when he moved. Admiral, Pierce interjected diplomatically, perhaps we should clarify some things about human culture. We're a peaceful species who enjoys, well, entertainment. The Empire's growing confusion. Supreme Warlord Nethi's Voidclaw materialized beside Darkbane in a cloud of unnecessary purple smoke. Her entrance was accompanied by what sounded like a choir of space whales singing funeral dirges. She wore a crown made entirely of what appeared to be decorative skulls, and her cape somehow defied physics by billowing dramatically in the vacuum of space. Report, Admiral, she commanded, her voice carrying so much artificial echo that it took 30 seconds for her three-word sentence to finish reverberating. The humans appear to be suffering from repeated neurological episodes, Darkbane explained seriously. They claim to consume battle stimulants recreationally and speak of entertainment, as if it were a military strategy. Dr. Torres couldn't help himself. I'm sorry, but did you practice that entrance? The smoke effects alone must take incredible timing. The aliens exchanged what seemed like confused glances, though it was hard to tell through their elaborate helmets. Explaining human humor. You see, Captain Pierce began carefully, humans have something called a sense of humor. We find certain things amusing. Amusing? Voidclaw's crown somehow became even more skull-laden. You find our magnificent display of imperial power entertaining? Well, Pierce bit her lip, trying not to smile, your aesthetic choices are very distinctive. They remind us of fictional villains from our entertainment media. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of Darkbane's mechanical breathing apparatus, which had apparently developed an even more dramatic wheeze. Lieutenant Jade Riley pulled up holographic displays of Earth's classic villain designs. See, "We have characters like this," she explained, showing images of caped villains with skull motifs, and this, another image of ships shaped like geometric weapons, and even this, a final image of an overlord in black armor with a breathing mask. The Imperial Identity Crisis. The alien leadership huddled together for what appeared to be an emergency conference. Through their open channel, the humans could hear fragments of their conversation. Are we accidentally copying their entertainment designs?" Voidclaw whispered, though her whisper still echoed dramatically. "Impossible," Darkbane replied, but his confidence wavered. "We developed our aesthetic over thousands of years of galactic conquest." Dr. Torres couldn't resist adding, "Oh, we've been making stories about evil space empires for centuries. Black ships, skull decorations, dramatic capes, ominous breathing sounds, it's all classic villain material." The demonstration gone wrong. Determined to prove their terrifying legitimacy, Darkbane straightened to his full imposing height. "Enough. You will witness the true power of the Empire. Prepare the Devastation Protocol Alpha." Warning klaxons began blaring on the Imperial ships, klaxons that played a surprisingly catchy tune that sounded suspiciously like carnival music. Red lights flashed in complex patterns that seemed more suited to a dance club than a warship. Captain Pierce muted their communications again. "Are those klaxons playing the chicken dance?" she asked incredulously. "I think it's a waltz," Riley replied, consulting her musical database. "Specifically, it's Strauss, but played through what sounds like kazoos." The Imperial fleet began moving into an attack formation that was undeniably impressive from a tactical standpoint, but the ship's movements were accompanied by synchronized light shows that made them look like a cosmic ballet troupe. The weapons display disaster. "Behold!" Darkbane announced dramatically, the ultimate destroyer beam of supreme cosmic annihilation and extreme unpleasantness. A massive cannon emerged from his flagship, painted in racing stripes and decorated with flames like a hot rod from Earth's 20th century. The weapon charged up with spectacular light effects while playing what could only be described as heavy metal music performed by an orchestra of cosmic whales. Dr. Torres was taking notes frantically. "This is fascinating," he muttered. "They've independently developed every single trope from human entertainment." The weapon fired at a nearby asteroid, completely vaporizing it in a display that was genuinely impressive. However, the dramatic explosion was accompanied by fireworks that spelled out, "Destroyed," in multiple galactic languages, complete with sparklers. The revelation dawns. Captain Pierce unmuted their channel. "Admiral, that was genuinely impressive. But can I ask, did your civilization watch any of our entertainment transmissions over the years?" There was a long pause. "Too long." "Define." "Watch," Darkbane replied carefully. "Oh my God," Lieutenant Riley gasped. "They've been intercepting our TV signals for years and thought they were instructional videos." Supreme Warlord Voidclaw's voice became noticeably less confident. "We may have studied your cultural transmissions to better understand human psychology for conquest purposes." Dr. Torres was grinning widely now. "Which shows specifically?" Another pause. "Your documentaries about galactic warfare were most educational." "What documentaries?" Pierce asked. "Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek When the Borg Appeared." Darkbane listed reluctantly. The human bridge crew exploded into fresh laughter as the truth dawned on everyone simultaneously. Part 3, The Empire's Terrifying Demonstrations. The theatrical arsenal unveiled. Colonel James Fletcher had just beamed aboard the UNS Starlight when the Imperial fleet began their most elaborate demonstration yet. As the ship's military advisor, he'd seen countless weapons tests, but nothing had prepared him for this spectacle. "Attention, inferior beings," boomed Dark Admiral Zephyr Grimstorm, who had apparently just joined the alien conference call. His entrance involved more smoke, more dramatic music, and what appeared to be a cape that was somehow on fire without actually burning. You will now witness our complete arsenal of galactic domination. Specialist Nova Chen, monitoring the tactical displays, looked up with barely contained amusement. Sir, they're about to demonstrate something called the Mega-Ultra-Super Death Ray of Infinite Cosmic Badness. Fletcher rubbed his temples. 30 years of military service hadn't prepared him for aliens who'd apparently learned warfare from Saturday morning cartoons. The naming convention disaster. First, Grimstorm announced with tremendous fanfare, observe the terror of the skull-crushing hammer of perpetual nightmares. A massive projectile weapon emerged from the alien dreadnought, shaped exactly like a giant hammer and painted with more skulls than seemed physically possible. It fired at another asteroid, pulverizing it completely while playing what sounded like a death metal version of classical music. Effective, Fletcher admitted grudgingly, but why the skulls? And now, continued the alien admiral, apparently gaining confidence, the Void Ripper's supreme cannon of maximum destructive destruction. This weapon looked like someone had attached laser cannons to a giant buzzsaw, complete with spinning blade effects that served no practical purpose but looked incredibly menacing. The blast carved through a small moon while accompanied by sound effects that could only be described as aggressive space dolphins. The science behind the spectacle. Dr. Benjamin Torres had returned to the bridge with a cup of coffee and a growing fascination with alien psychology. Colonel, I'm reading their technical specifications. These weapons are actually incredibly advanced, the destructive capability is beyond anything we have. But? Fletcher sensed there was more. But they've wrapped all this advanced technology in the most unnecessarily dramatic presentation possible. Look at this, they have a weapon called the Sadness Beam of Eternal Weeping. Specialist Chen burst out laughing. What does it do? Torres consulted his readings. It's actually a sophisticated neural disruptor that can incapacitate entire populations non-lethally. But they've programmed it to play melancholy music while it works. The ultimate weapon revelation. Dark Admiral Grimstorm's voice reached new levels of dramatic intensity. And now, primitives, witness our ultimate creation, the planet-ending apocalypse machine of doom, destruction, and really bad times for everyone. The flagship began transforming, unfolding into what could only be described as a mechanical space kraken crossed with a Gothic cathedral. Weapons emerged from every surface, each one labeled with increasingly ridiculous names like, the pointy stick of cosmic unpleasantness, and the boom boom cannon of sadness making. Colonel Fletcher studied the tactical readouts with growing respect and bewilderment. These weapons could actually end a planet, he murmured. The technology is centuries ahead of ours. But sir, Chen pointed out, look at the control interface. On the alien bridge, they could see crew members operating their world-ending weapons using control panels decorated with racing stripes, flame decals, and what appeared to be fuzzy dice hanging from the targeting systems. The test fire catastrophe. Observe our power. Grimstorm commanded. The ultimate weapon charged up with a light show that rivaled any fireworks display in human history. Energy crackling between massive conductors, colors shifting through the entire spectrum, and a crescendo of what sounded like a choir of cosmic opera singers reaching impossible high notes. The weapon fired at a distant planetoid, and the result was genuinely awe-inspiring. The celestial body didn't just explode, it was converted into pure energy in a display that lit up half the solar system. However, as the light faded, words appeared in space glitter that read, PWNED, in letters 50 kilometers tall. The human crew fell silent for a moment before Dr. Torres spoke up. Did they just use internet slang from the early 21st century? The cultural exchange moment. Admiral Grimstorm, Colonel Fletcher said carefully, that was an impressive display of technological superiority. But I have to ask, where did you learn the term pond? There was an uncomfortable pause before Grimstorm replied, we have studied your cultural databases extensively. This is a term of victory, is it not? Well, yes, but we have incorporated many of your expressions of dominance into our conquest protocols, the alien continued proudly. Our victory announcements also include, "You got served, take that, noobs," and "Get good scrubs." Specialist Chen was taking notes frantically. "Sir, they've been learning Earth slang from our internet archives. Their terrifying conquest declarations are basically memes from 30 years ago." The technical admiration. Despite the ridiculous presentation, Fletcher found himself genuinely impressed with the Imperial technology. "Admiral, setting aside the creative naming conventions, your weapons technology is remarkable. How long did it take to develop these systems?" "Centuries of Imperial engineering," Grimstorm replied with evident pride. "Though we did accelerate development after studying your entertainment archives for tactical inspiration." Dr. Torres leaned forward eagerly. "Which specific sources did you find most instructive?" "Your documentary series, Power Rangers, provided excellent insights into combining multiple weapon systems," the alien explained seriously. "And your historical records of something called Warhammer 40,000 offered superb aesthetic guidance." The revelation that the galaxy's most advanced military had been taking design cues from human fantasy entertainment was too much for the crew. Even Colonel Fletcher, with his decades of military discipline, couldn't suppress a smile. "Admiral," he said diplomatically, "I think we need to have a longer conversation about the difference between entertainment and instruction manuals." Part 4, Diplomatic Chaos and Revelations. The ambassador arrives. Ambassador Diana Cross materialized on the bridge in a swirl of transporter energy, her diplomatic credentials having been hastily transmitted to her during the journey from Earth. She'd spent her career handling first contact scenarios, but her briefing materials had somehow failed to mention that the aliens might be cosmic LARPers with planet-ending weapons. "Status report," she requested calmly, then paused as she observed the main viewscreen showing an alien fleet that looked like it had escaped from a teenager's heavy metal album cover. Lieutenant Orion Blake, the ship's cultural liaison officer, stepped forward with barely contained amusement. "Ma'am, we're dealing with what appears to be the galaxy's most technologically advanced civilization that has accidentally based their entire aesthetic on human entertainment media." "Accidentally?" Cross raised an eyebrow. "Well," Blake consulted his notes, "they've been intercepting our broadcasts for decades and treating them as documentary evidence of human military capabilities and cultural norms." The diplomatic disaster. High Chancellor Kyrex Doomweaver had joined the alien conference call, his introduction involving even more theatrical elements than his predecessors. His costume appeared to be part medieval armor, part spacesuit, and part disco ball, creating an effect that was simultaneously intimidating and fabulous. "Greetings, lesser beings," he intoned through what sounded like a voice modulator set to maximum dramatic echo. "I am High Chancellor Kyrex Doomweaver, architect of infinite sorrow, bringer of cosmic despair, and keeper of the sacred playlist of doom." Ambassador Cross blinked slowly. "Sacred playlist?" "Indeed," Doomweaver replied proudly. "Our conquest scenarios are choreographed to the most fear-inducing music your species has created." Lieutenant Blake couldn't help himself. "What kind of music?" "Your terrifying war anthems," the alien explained enthusiastically. "Songs like Never Gonna Give You Up, Baby Shark, and the most psychologically devastating composition we discovered, something called the Macarena." The bridge crew exchanged glances of pure disbelief. The cultural education crisis. Ambassador Cross activated her diplomatic protocols, drawing on years of training in cross-cultural communication. "Chancellor Doomweaver, I believe there may be some fundamental misunderstandings about human culture that we should address." "Impossible," the alien replied with absolute confidence. "We have studied your species for decades. We know of your warrior culture, your gladiatorial entertainments, your complex mating rituals involving something called reality television." Dr. Torres, who had remained on the bridge for this historic moment, stepped forward. "Chancellor, what exactly do you think reality television represents?" "Clearly it documents your species' method of selecting leaders through ritualistic humiliation and survival challenges," Doomweaver explained matter-of-factly. We were particularly impressed by the strategic complexity of The Bachelor as a diplomatic alliance-building exercise. The fleet's true purpose. Chancellor, Ambassador Cross said carefully, "May I ask what your empire's intentions are regarding Earth?" "Conquest, naturally," he replied as if it were obvious. "We will defeat your greatest warriors in honorable combat, claim your planet's resources, and integrate your people into the Empire as is tradition." Lieutenant Blake looked up from his console. "Sir, when you say, greatest warriors, who exactly are you expecting to fight?" "We have prepared extensively," Doomweaver said proudly. "Our intelligence indicates your most formidable champions include individuals known as John Wick, the Terminator, and someone called Chuck Norris who according to your records has achieved impossible feats of combat prowess." The silence that followed was profound. Those are fictional characters," Cross explained gently. "The intelligence failure. The alien leadership apparently went into emergency consultation mode, their channel filled with increasingly frantic whispers that still managed to echo dramatically." "Are you certain?" Doomweaver asked eventually, his voice noticeably less confident. "Completely certain," Ambassador Cross confirmed. "They're characters from entertainment productions, stories we create for fun." Dr. Torres added helpfully, "Chuck Norris is a real person, but the legendary feats attributed to him are jokes. Internet memes, specifically." "Memes?" another alien voice inquired from off-screen. "Humorous cultural content shared for entertainment," Blake explained. "Not military intelligence." The revelation cascade. What followed was perhaps the most diplomatically awkward moment in human history as the Galactic Empire's leadership slowly realized the scope of their misunderstanding. "So your Avengers are not an elite military unit?" asked a new voice identified as Subcommander Nexus Shadowbringer. "No, they're fictional superheroes," Cross replied patiently. "And Star Trek is not a historical record of your space exploration? It's aspirational science fiction. The Fast and Furious documentaries do not represent your standard vehicle operation procedures?" Lieutenant Blake snorted. "God, I hope not." Ambassador Cross maintained her diplomatic composure. "No, those are action movies with highly unrealistic physics. The strategic recalculation." High Chancellor Doomweaver's voice had lost much of its theatrical grandeur. "This complicates our invasion strategy considerably." "How so?" Cross asked, though she suspected she already knew. "Our entire battle plan was based on countering your apparent superhuman capabilities, advanced combat vehicles, and what we believed was a military force capable of defeating alien invasions on a weekly basis." Dr. Torres was frantically taking notes. "This is fascinating from an anthropological perspective. You've essentially been preparing to fight fictional characters. Our simulations indicated that defeating someone called Superman would require our most advanced weaponry," Doomweaver admitted reluctantly. "Superman doesn't exist," Blake said gently. "He's a comic book character." "Comic book?" "Sequential art telling fictional stories." The alien consultation continued for several minutes, during which the humans could hear what sounded like the complete restructuring of galactic military doctrine happening in real time. The unexpected proposal. When Doomweaver's voice returned, it carried a tone the humans hadn't heard before, uncertainty mixed with what might have been curiosity. "Ambassador Cross," he said formally, "if your warriors are fictional and your combat capabilities are greatly exaggerated in these entertainment productions, then what is humanity's actual military strength?" Cross considered her answer carefully. "We're a relatively young species, technologically speaking. We've barely begun exploring our own solar system, and our weapons are primitive compared to what you've demonstrated today." "Then, you pose no threat to the Empire whatsoever?" "None at all." Another long pause. "This is unexpected." Lieutenant Blake looked at the ambassador with growing realization. "Ma'am, I think we might have just accidentally made ourselves the galaxy's most interesting anthropological study." Ambassador Cross smiled slightly. "Lieutenant, I think this first contact is about to become much more complicated than anyone planned.